In the 1900s, transatlantic passenger trade was highly profitable and competitive. Ship lines worked to transport wealthy travelers and immigrants. The two chief lines were White Star and Cunard. In 1907, Cunard looked to increase its share of the market with two new ships that would work to set speed records while crossing the Atlantic Ocean from Europe. White Star chairman J. Bruce Ismay met with shipbuilder William Peary from the shipbuilding company Harland & Wolff, the constructors of most White Star vessels. The men worked to create a new class of large luxury ocean liners that would be known for their comfort instead of speed. They came up with the three vessels RMS Titanic, RMS Olympic, and RMS Britannic. On March 31st, 1909, 3 months after work began in the Olympic, the keel was laid for the Titanic. The two ships were actually built side by side in a gantry that would be able to accommodate their immense size. These two sister ships were mainly designed by Thomas Andrews of Harland & Wolff. The Titanic was built for the accommodation of the first class. Second class accommodations were comparable to the first class features on other ships, and the third class offerings were modest, yet still noted for their comfort. The Titanic was referred to as the unsinkable ship due to the belief that the design made the ship watertight. Shipbuilders gave the ship 16 compartments that included doors that could be closed so that the water could be contained if the hull was broken. Shipbuilders claimed that 4 of these compartments could be without endangering the liner's buoyancy. On May 31, 1911, the construction of the Titanic was finally complete. It underwent sea trials in early April 1912, which declared the ship seaworthy. The passengers of the Titanic were divided into 3 separate classes determined by the price of their ticket and their social or wealth class. Many first-class passengers were businessmen, politicians, high-ranking military personnel, industrialists, bankers, and professional athletes. Second-class passengers were middle-class travelers that included professors, authors, clergymen, and tourists. Finally, the third-class passengers, or steerage passengers, were primarily immigrants from Scandinavian countries looking for jobs in the United States and Canada. Famous first-class passengers included multimillionaire Colonel John Jacob Astor IV and his young pregnant wife, who were returning to the States for the birth of their baby. John Jacob Astor IV and his wife Madeline were known for being the wealthiest family on the boat. Philanthropist and socialite Margaret Brown, also known as the unsinkable Molly Brown, was amongst others on the ship, along with Isidor Straus and his wife. Straus was a member of the U.S. House of Representatives and the owner of Macy's department store in New York City. On April 10, 1912, the Titanic set sail on its maiden voyage from Southampton, England, to New York City. Edward J. Smith, the captain of the Titanic during its voyage, was known as the Millionaire Special because of his popularity with wealthy passengers. On board the ship were 2,200 people. Approximately 1,300 of them were passengers. Throughout most of the voyage, radio operators aboard the Titanic were receiving iceberg warnings. Captain Edward Smith, after hearing these messages, altered the ship to head farther south. Another ship sent a warning of an ice field. The message was never received by the Titanic. Two lookouts, Frederick Fleet and Reginald Lee, were working the crow's nest that night. Their jobs were particularly hard due to the missing binoculars they were supposed to have. At 11:40 p.m., an iceberg was spotted. Officer William Murdoch ordered for the ship to turn left, but it was too late. The Titanic was too close and collided with the iceberg. At that moment, 5 of the supposedly unsinkable compartments were ruptured. After examining the damage, Thomas Andrews assessed that within a matter of hours, the ship would see its fate and sink bow first into the ocean. Captain Smith immediately had distress signals sent out, one of which reached the Carpathia, a Cunard ship which happened to be 58 nautical miles away. This would take the ship over 3 hours to reach the Titanic. As more attempts were made to contact closer vessels, lifeboats began to be launched, with orders of women and children to go first. According to the British Board of Trade, the Titanic exceeded its number of lifeboats required. Still, its 20 boats could only carry a maximum of 1,178 people. This problem was made worse by the fact that the boats are being launched well below capacity due to the crewmen being afraid the lifeboats would sink due to the maximum amount of weight. Lifeboat number 7 was the first to leave the Titanic, with only 27 people out of the 65 maximum. In the end, only 705 people would be rescued by lifeboats. As the Titanic's bow began to sink, the stern of the ship began to rise up, leading to extreme strain on the midsection. At approximately 2:18 a.m., the Titanic broke into two, sending the bow plunging into freezing water. By 2:20 a.m., the ship had completely sunk. Due to the fear of being ambushed, those in lifeboats delayed returning to pick up the survivors. By the time they returned, almost all of the people in the water had frozen to death. The Carpathia arrived at the area at 3:30 a.m., an hour after the ship had sunk. It retrieved all of the survivors and headed towards New York City to finish the destination. The sinking of the Titanic took toll on Europe and the United States greatly. Only a total of 710 lives were saved, many of which were women and children. Over 1,500 people lost their lives, many of which were lower-class men and crewmen. A month after the sinking, the British inquiry began. Here, they discussed the changes that were to be made to reconstruct security within the vessels. It was discovered that the ship, the Californian, had been sent distress signals from the Titanic, but did not receive them due to the fact that they were turned off. The ship was only 5 to 10 miles away from the Titanic at the time, and would have been able to save many, if not all, the lives that were lost.